We received an oncoming transmission. The main division of the Muffins had been ambushed by a tank destroyer in the mineland fields just before we arrived at the scene to meet up with them. As we traveled through and crested the hill, we started to notice the ruins of the tanks in the surrounding area. We parked our tanks as our Russian father climbed out to tell the others about a base camp we had spotted along the edge of the desert in a place known as the Mirage Lands. Some of the crews also climbed out to take a look around as we looked upon the sight of destroyed vehicles around us. It seemed odd. Some had been stripped for parts that a destroyer themselves wouldn't use, and there were no visible track trails left behind the tanks that lay in ruin. Some of us greeted the surviving STRV crew of the previous ambush, and that our group helped finish fixing up what they could of their tank. It was instructed that the Russian family was going to guide the main division to the base camp we saw earlier, and that we were to help guide the crew of the STRV back to the garage in the Black Gold Mine fields, as much of the tank still needed repairs we couldn't do ourselves. As we started our engines again, we saw our main division make their way back out towards the desert. The crew of the STRV mentioned a garage in the southeast their clan had once gone to that was safe, not yet within plague-owned territory, and was much closer nearby. We began to move out as our main clan disappeared into the distance as we went our own way to help get our new STRV back in perfect working order. As we traveled among the unfamiliar plains, the distance seemed to take a little longer than expected, but led us to come across an old deserted fortress that looked as if it had once been used as a naval base before the fall, known as the Naval Frontier. We crept forward and stopped to notice nothing but the sound of a calm, still silence that overtook the high cliffs surrounding the area. It left us uncertain and cautious about the new territory among us, but almost didn't seem much different than the route we had planned back to the gold mine fields, as the plague's advance might have caused there to be new dangers among that land as well. The crew of the STRV radios in mentions that when their clan passed through here, some would take the high and low ground to cover and be able to safely spot what they could while moving through. The idea made sense, as the STRV decided to take the right flank while the Cromwell went center and the Leopard took left. As we began to travel through, we tested our radios to make sure our line communication was clear. The silence and echoing sounds of the winds passing through the cliffs and the abandoned fortress seemed to warn us of something unseen. When making through the first quarter of the land, something began not to feel right as we radioed in again to check in on the others. The crew of the Cromwell responded as they continued to keep a close eye on what they could from their center position. As we reached the halfway point, we radioed into the crew of the STRV, but no reply came back. We stopped and tried radioing in once again as the shocking sight of the Plague's Division's tanks began to crawl out from among the high cliffs and bushes right from in front of us. The leader from the division comes out to announce a welcoming to the few members of the Muffin clan they knew were among them. They begin to express how impressed they've become with what we've done and our resistance against them. As the leader stretches forth his hand, they offer a distrusting chance to join them and make an alliance. The sound of the crew from the Cromwell's radios in to the crew of the Leopard. How fast do you think these tanks are capable of? The driver of the Leopard grips the controls as they realize their only option for escape. The commander of the Leopard replies, "There's only one way to find out." as they gas it to turn around and try to run from the threat before them. The Plague's light tanks begin to also gas it down into the valley to chase the Muffins, as shells from the slower, heavier Plague tanks begin to fire to try to hit them before they can get away. Explosions splash against the rocks all around them as they try to give their tanks all they have to escape. The Leopard races through as shells fly around them, barely missing their tank while they try to wiggle to shake off the enemy's aim. The Cromwell tries to do the same as they take a turn around the corner to try to lose them. While winding through the hills and cliffs doing what they can, the gunner of the Leopard turns their turret backward to take aim on the enclosing enemies behind them and fires APCR rounds through the air to begin ripping through one of the Plague's lights and destroying it before being able to take another shot. More rounds are seen exploding around them as they continue to fire back and try to knock out another. The enemy fires and almost hits the Cromwell while trying to gain distance, but loses them as another sharp turn is taken. They continue to gas it forward and turn sharply as well as they come around a corner to begin to see the Cromwell stopped while pointing its gun at them and pulls the trigger to blow them away. The Cromwell throttles it forward to continue to run as the others are seen coming around the corner to try to catch them. While the Leopard continues to try and get away, the sound of a shell is heard fired from behind and rips right through their gas tank, causing them to realize they may no longer have enough tank left. The commander looks over to see the lookout area of the cliffs and realizes what must be done if they're going to have a chance to at least save their Cromwell. The Leopard radios into the Cromwell to try and lead those flames back to the low point of the cliffs, as the Plague are seen gaining distance on them while firing more rounds to try and bring them to a stop. The crew of the Cromwell responds that they'll try, as the Leopard gives it all they have while continuing to fire its autoloading cannon back at the enemy. While racing through a narrow pathway, the Cromwell tries also firing back at the Plague driving forward, as shells are seen exploding around them while missing the enemy from the difficulty of firing the cannon upon movement. How close are you? The Leopard J radios into the Cromwell as they reply, almost there, while more shots are continuing fired back and forth with the continued chaos. The Plague heavy tank crawls out to come into view as the Cromwell continues to race towards them while thinking they don't have a chance. The heavy tank tries to take aim and fires at the Cromwell just as the driver decides to jerk the controls, causing their tank to just miss the oncoming shell as it cuts right through another one of their light tanks, causing it to explode. The Cromwell radios in, asking how much time the Leopard needs, as they respond, not much. As the Leopard finishes racing up the hill with its others following close behind while taking fire and also continuing to fire back. The Plague heavies are also seen coming out to fire upon the Cromwell, as the area is seen as the crew of the Leopard described. More shells fly around the Cromwell as the Plague heavies begin to take aim, just as the crew of the Leopard yells, "Now!" Just as the scene of their tank is seen flying out from the cliff from up above and crashes down to land on another Plague tank to blow it up, as the enemy tanks follow suit to try and catch the Leopard, but also land on some of their other tanks below, while the heavies blast their cannons, causing the rest of them to become destroyed. But Cromwell looks back to see the damaged Leopard unable to move as the injured crew from inside radios for them to go on without them and run. The crew of the Cromwell, realizing they're about to lose a good friend, cries out that they will not leave a friend behind as they themselves turn around to try to take on the others. But the scene of the leader of the Plague tank comes around the corner to surround them and blasts around right through them to bring the chase to an end. The crew of the STRV looks out from afar as the scene of the Leopard and Cromwell are seen in ruins before them in the distance. A voice from the main division of the Muffins is being heard frantically over the radio as the STRV turns around to depart back to the Muffins.